Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about working with bump maps in Affinity Photo. For me, it's one of the best ways to add textures to whatever image you're working with. To get started, I will open up our first image and go File, Open, and I'll open up this nice little red ball what I've got. To work with a bump map, we will need to isolate this red ball because we only want to affect the ball. So I'm just going to make a quick selection of the ball, and because the background's white, the selection will be easy. And if you want to follow along, I will put the images in the description below so you can download them and follow along. So we will get back on track now, and the bump map, you can get to it by going to the filter, and it's in the filter lighting. There's a few ways we can get to it. We can go to filter and come down to lighting. If we go that way, you'll see that that's now classed as a destructive movement. And we don't want that, because if we do a destructive movement, once we apply these changes, if I click apply, we can't change those settings now. We're stuck with them settings. So I'll just go back, and if we go to layer, new live filter, and come down to lighting, we can get it. And then if we click that off, we can now decide, well, we don't like that, we want to change it. We can double click on the lighting filter and it pops back up. But there is a different way to get to it. Instead of having to go to layer and all that way, if we delete that, and in your layers panel, if you come down to the bottom, we've got a hourglass type thing. If we click on that, and it pops up all our live filters, and all we want to do is come up near the bottom and click on lighting, and that gets it. Says us going to layer and all that way round. So we're working with bump maps. These settings help with your lighting. We will discuss them because we can use the bump map settings without actually using the bump map, but we'll come back to these settings, and I'm going to change the type to directional because it'll help see what we're actually working with easier. So we've got the direction that we can change from where the light comes in. If we move it in, it comes from the center, and move it out. But we can change the lighting with the other settings up top as well that I'll discuss on the next image that we'll have to work with. So what is a bump map? A bump map is just a texture that you can make up from any image that you like, that we can put onto a different picture that we're working with to change how it all looks. And to do that, all you need to do is click on load bump map, and I'm going to put in this metal surface, and now that's in there, and it's made no difference at all because we've not changed the settings. But if we move it up, now the texture of that bump map is actually coming through. And the reason why that is, the bump map targets three specific colours. It targets the blacks, the greys, and the whites. That's why whenever you work with a bump map, it's always best to change it into black, white, and grey. If you don't, it will only target them three parts of it and nothing else. So if you've got something that's got yellows, greens, it won't do nothing with them colours, only the blacks, the whites, and the greys. So if we move this up, we can see that the texture gets a lot stronger. And if we move it down, it does the same. With this one you can't really tell, but what happens is, if we move it up, the blacks stay flat, the greys start to rise up, and then the whites come right out, and that's what gives you the texture. But if we go downwards, what that does is it says we're going to change those settings round, and now the whites are going to stay flat, the greys are still going to rise up, but instead of the whites coming out, the blacks are now going to rise out. And that's all that does. It changes whichever one you want to sink in, well, stay flat or raise out. So if you go up, the whites rise out. If you come down, the blacks rise out. And then we can scale it to fit vertical and horizontal. And then we've got the opacity that we can change. But what makes the bump map with the Affinity software good is we don't actually need a bump map. So if we clear that and shut that off, I'm going to close that off, not save it, go File, Open, and the best way to show you is on this brick wall. As we can see, this brick wall's already got textures, but if we unlock our background image first, then go to our lighting effect and change that back to directional, we come back to where we was before, but instead of loading the bump map, I'll just move that down a bit, and we can, if we remembered from before, the bump map texture targets the blacks, the greys and the whites. So if we come up this way, we can see that it's give us a lot of noise, and that's where these settings play a big part, using the bump map settings without a bump map. We've got the diffuse, what scatters the light. The specular reflects the light in a certain direction, and the shininess is linked to the specular on how much it reflects. So if we turn that right down, we're now telling the specular not to shine that much in a certain direction, and the ambient light determines how much background light there is. So we put that up, and we can see the whole image starts to get lighter. So we come back down to the texture now. If we move up, you can see we've added a lot more texture to what it was before. So if I just close that off and shut off that, that's what it was, and that's what it is now. And if we go downwards, we're telling the whites not to do out, but the blacks to rise out. And that's why it's important on which way, because if you use an image, the bump map settings still work because it only targets those three parts of the blacks, the greys and the whites. And that's it for bump maps. That's how they work. They are real simple to work with. You just got to remember, if you do want to add an image as a bump map, it's always best to convert it to black, white and grey, and that's real easy. You just obviously go to, actually I'll just quickly show you, there is other ways to do it, but for a quick way, go to adjustments, black and white, and you only really need to move the top two settings. As you can see, you can go full white, so that's too much. So I'm going to come down this way, and then change that one there. And then all you need to do is go to the adjustments, go to curves, and then we can adjust that way, and that's it. Now that would be fine for a bump map, and then once you've got your settings done there, you just go to File, Export as a image, I'll just get rid of that, and then just click save, and that's it. That's how you can easily make up a bump map from all that you're after using. And that's it for this one. If this video has helped, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.